Okay, quick one about jury selection. No, you do not get to handpick your jury like a team. Instead, the judges and lawyers use a cooperative process called voir dire to question a randomly select summoned pool of citizens and remove biased individuals until a proper group remains. So basically, if you have a lawyer, your lawyer is the one that's going to pick the jurors. And I help people because, especially with the public defender's office, public defender was mad because the kid wanted a jury trial. She was mad because they violated his right to a quick and speedy trial. And he didn't know the case was supposed to be thrown out because they violated his right to a quick and speedy trial. This was like 10 months, 11 months into the case, and they spent all their time trying to convince him to take a plea deal. So, anyways, they told him he didn't have a right to pick his jury. But in accordance to the rules of professional conduct, his lawyers, he presented a line of questioning to his lawyer, to find a jury of his peers, asking questions to lifestyles, issues he dealt with on a personal life. And in accordance with the rules of professional conduct, the lawyer is supposed to do as the client's instructed. So we presented the public defender with a line of questioning, and he didn't get to pick the jurors he wanted, but according to the line of questioning, if the jurors didn't answer correctly, they were automatically dismissed. So he was from a low-income neighborhood. He was doing his best to get his education. Asked if anybody was ever stopped and frisked walking to school to work, from work, going to the bus stop. Simple questions, that he faced in his short lifetime in grammar school and high school. And certain people answered these questions correctly, so they were chosen for the jury pool. Okay, so when it comes to jury selection, you may not have an option as to the selection itself, but you do have an option as to the line of questioning. You want a jury of your peers, so make sure your peers, know something about you. And that way, you know something about them. You want somebody on that jury that's dealt with your life experiences. Okay, so they got mad. But they eventually threw it out because once they picked a juror and it went to trial, because they got mad because he kept complaining what happened with this quick and speedy trial. I said, you want a quick and speedy trial? We'll have it today. And this was a public defender. A total violation of the rules of professional conduct. She's supposed to protect his life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness as if it was her own. And no matter how many times I brought up the rules in the code, she got upset. And then, she got upset because they wanted to talk to him at their office. I went, and then she got this other public defender to talk to me. And I started laughing. What's so funny? I said, you're just trying to keep me preoccupied so she can talk to him alone and convince him that I don't know what I'm talking about because I'm not a lawyer. I says, and she's going to try, just take the plea deal. We'll tell the judge you changed your mind. You don't want a jury trial. You want a bench trial because, young man, if you take a jury trial and lose, that judge is going to give you more time. And she just looked at me and walked away. Hey, where you coming? Come back here. I thought we were having a conversation. You're supposed to keep me preoccupied. And the kid came out like 5 minutes laughing. He said, how'd you know that was going to happen? I said, this is not the first time I've been through this with people. The people that let me help, I help. I said, so what happened? He said, not exactly what you said, but it happened. I said, what, she tell you I'm not a lawyer? And he just started laughing. And she tell you that the judge will give you more time if you lose in a jury trial? They like to throw that around a lot, which they can't say that. That's illegal. Ask the judge. I'm telling this kid, ask the judge when you get in court. And tell the judge what they were doing to you. That's deprivation of rights, violating the rules of professional conduct. That's federal offense. But, I always advise everybody with the same thing. Take a jury trial, pick your own jury. Your lawyer's not going to abide by the rules of professional conduct unless you bring them with you. The judge isn't going to abide by the code of judicial conduct unless you bring them with you. Since you can't take electronic devices and use them in court, I strongly suggest you print it out and take it with you, and any other applicable laws that you feel are you're being deprived of. And anyway, like I said, they threw it out. They brought up the cop was questioned. The cop contradicted what was in the police report. He said he saw all 7 kids spray painting, so he arrested all of them. But there was only 2 cans of spray paint and police custody. And the cans of spray paint they confiscated from the van these kids were fixing up, or a car, whatever. But they were fixing up a car and sanding, and there was primer or something. And the spray paint on the wall that those kids that the cops saw spray painting, it was a black paint. They took off, ripped around the corner, ran past these kids that were standing there talking. The cop pulled up and grabbed these kids. That's what he'd taken us for. It's wrong place, wrong time, But either way, somebody was talking about jury bench trial or something on the internet, and I keep track of a lot of groups, and personally, I'm just speaking from myself. Every time I go to court, I always choose a jury trial because I've never met a judge that lived up to the code of judicial conduct, and never met a lawyer that lived up to the rule of professional conduct. And that's deprivation on rights on both parts. On all 3 parts, the opposing party, your attorney, and the judge. And reporting misconduct is mandatory in both the rules and the codes, and nobody reports that misconduct, that everybody's misconducting. And that's a conspiracy against rights under the color of law. And the only reason they don't report each other is because everybody's doing it. It's always been that way. It's always been that way. And no matter how high you take it up, it's going to keep happening unless you use the rules and the codes. Okay, that's the closest you'll ever get to a due process, a fair trial. Effective assistance of counsel. Too bad I didn't have a computer or know how to use one. Or I tried to get people to take me to the library, so teach me how to use, so I could see if this on net, print this stuff out. But so I just had to go by memory. But it worked. When they questioned the cop about okay, you saw everybody spray painting? Yeah. So you arrested all of them? Yeah. How many people? 7. How many convictions so far? 6. Okay. And the police report says 2 cans of spray paint. Is that correct? He didn't say nothing. And he says, okay, which 3 were holding this can? Which 4 were holding that can? So it pays to give your attorney a line of questioning. You know what I'm saying? She did not like saying that. The judge jumped up, called for a sidebar. The attorneys and the defendant wound up in the judge's chambers. The judge came back out, dismissed the jury, apologized for wasting their time. The attorneys weren't cited for violating the rule of professional conduct. The cop wasn't cited for perjury. They all violated the oath. That was a fraudulent, frivolous claim. It lacked probable cause. And that could have been proven in a probable cause hearing. But The judges, they don't like that. You want a probable cause hearing, we're going to take this to trial. And then they get upset when you pick a jury trial. Tell them why you don't live up to the Code of Judicial Conduct. That's violating the oath. That's deprivation of rights. And you want me to trust you to judge me? Did you ever cite a lawyer for ineffective assistance of counsel? These are questions, People get mad at me because if the judge knows this is their job and the lawyers know this is their job and they know this, and how come they don't do it? I said, why are you asking me? You're telling me what's happening in court, and I'm telling you what should happen, but isn't, and what is happening is against the law. It shouldn't be happening. It's called deprivation of rights, a conspiracy against rights under the color of law. If they know that, why aren't they doing it? Because you don't know. They're taking advantage of your ignorance of the law. All you got to do is read the rules and the codes. It's self-explanatory. Not violating the rules or the codes, that's misconduct. Reporting misconduct is mandatory in both. And it's mandatory for any judge or lawyer to know that has any knowledge of any judge or lawyer violating rules or codes. It's their job to report them to the proper authorities. Pretty simple. Pretty damn simple. But anyways, my vision's clearing up. I got to do part 2 of my other video, addressing the U.S. Supreme Court. But I was on television and something came up about jury selection, or somebody didn't know if they should jury or bench, or I'm giving you my opinion based on the rules of professional conduct and the Code of Judicial Conduct. Okay, that's what my opinion is based on. And from my experiences, not just on my own behalf, but I've helped a lot of people. Remember, due process doesn't exist. You'll never get a fair trial if you don't have effective assistance of counsel. The definition of that's in the Rules of Professional Conduct and the Code of Judicial Conduct. And effective assistance of counsel is guaranteed to you by the 6th Amendment of the United States Constitution. And any law repugnant to the Constitution is void. The oath to the Constitution comes first. Loyalty to the Constitution is always first and foremost. Any order to violate that oath is an unlawful order. It's unlawful to give unlawful orders as well as it is to take them. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. Neither is just taking orders. All right, people. May your Creator always be with you and rain many blessings. May you have a long life and good health. Thank you and good night.